on apprend une langue étrangère, il est super facile de se tromper avec les expressions. Je me souviens de la fois où j'ai dit « Il faut remettre l'église dans le centre-ville ». Vous avez probablement compris, mais ça sonne un peu drôle quand même. C'est pourquoi aujourd'hui, je vous explique 10 expressions en anglais qui vous permettront de parler un anglais naturel et pas celui de vos manuels scolaires. Speaking of manuel scolaire, I have something that is not a school textbook. If you would like to take your learning even further, you can download the free PDF from the description where you'll find further explanations of all of these expressions, some exercises and quizzes to really check that you've understood these expressions. All right, let's see our first expression. I really love to whip this one out in an argument and just say, is this really the hill that you want to die on? Est-ce que vous connaissez cette expression en anglais? I will die on this hill.
You won't die on this hill.
Elle vient du vocabulaire militaire.
We all need a hill to die on.
À l'origine, elle faisait référence à une colline stratégique qu'un soldat devait défendre à tout prix.
Put 2 good men on that hill.
Aujourd'hui, on l'utilise pour parler de l'opinion impopulaire de quelqu'un qui refuse de changer d'avis,
I'll die on this hill.
même si tout le monde est contre lui.
Is not the hill you want to die on, okay?
Here is my hill. I think that when people are walking on the pavement, on the sidewalk, that we should try our best to walk on the right side, or the left, depending on the country. And if you collide with someone, that you should both kindly step to the right, and I will die on that hill. So this is an expression mostly used to talk about Instagram. And I've really recently started using it because I guess before I started up my social media accounts, I didn't really use social media as much. So here it is.
But have you ever heard of a Finsta?
She has a Finsta. What's a Finsta?
Le mot Finsta vient de la contraction de fake et Insta.
Do you have like a Finsta?
Un Finsta est un compte secondaire où on peut partager du contenu sans pression.
That's why we make a Finsta.
Mais il paraît même que certaines personnes utilisent un Finsta pour espionner tranquillement d'autres comptes.
So I made a Finsta and I started stalking her a little bit.
À l'opposé, il y a le Rinsta, Real Insta, qui montre une version plus soignée de soi-même. What about you guys? Do you have a Finsta? I know it's not really the point of a Finsta, but just tell me all your Finsta handles in the comments. Moving on. Vous avez sûrement entendu cette expression en anglais.
You gotta be low key.
Mais est-ce que vous savez ce que ça veut dire?
Low key, the best thing ever.
Elle viendrait du vocabulaire musical. Key signifie tonalité. Et low key est donc une tonalité discrète ou modérée.
We have to stay low key.
Aujourd'hui, on utilise souvent low key pour décrire quelque chose de discret, modéré ou calme.
You promised to keep this low key.
So here we discussed that this term may come from the world of music, but there is actually another theory, and the other theory suggests that it may come from the world of lighting and photography. So when we talk about lighting, we have a key light, and that is the main light. I have mine right here that lights up the subject. So for example, if we turn it down, it would be something like this, not super well lit and maybe a little bit more subtle and perhaps low-key. Either way, this expression is so common these days. Low-key. So our next expression is really related, I guess, to the dating world, and I feel like it's definitely become much more common with the use of like dating apps and this like really strong sort of dating culture that we see these days.
I got the ick.
Cette expression vient du mot icky,
It's so icky.
qui signifie dégueulasse.
You know, it's just icky.
Mais aujourd'hui, on utilise to get the ick, surtout dans un contexte romantique. On l'utilise pour décrire le sentiment d'être soudainement dégoûté par quelqu'un à cause d'un petit détail ou d'un comportement un peu particulier.
How do you feel if a guy uses an umbrella in the rain?
Oh my god, ick.
It's a bit of a cop-out in a way, you know? If you just say, oh, I got the ick, it's almost like case closed. Somebody did something, it grossed me out, and I removed myself from the situation. And it really is just used in the context of dating, right? We wouldn't say like, oh my god, there's moldy food in the fridge, it gave me the ick. No, that's just disgusting. Okay, our next expression, which has really been coming up a lot lately in the news, comes from the world of politics. Let's take a look.
Gerrymandering.
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 Mais qu'est-ce que ça signifie?
Gerrymandering is going on.
Le mot est composé de deux parties, Gerry et Mander. Gerry vient de Elbridge Gerry, un gouverneur du Massachusetts qui, en 1812, a redessiné la frontière d'un district pour avantager son parti. Mander vient du mot salamander, parce que le district redessiné était si déformé qu'il ressemblait à ça, une salamandre. Gerrymandering est donc synonyme de manipulation électorale.
What we have here is a clear case of gerrymandering.
Et aujourd'hui encore, le gerrymandering a créé des circonscriptions aux formes absurdes aux États-Unis, comme celle-ci. This has been coming up a lot recently, but something that I also learned this week, in fact, is that there is another term related to gerrymandering, which refers to the act of gerrymandering so much that you dilute the support you have in one district to add it to another, but you dilute it so much that you end up losing that district. And it is called dummymandering. Fascinating. There you go. All right, next expression. I think I use this one a lot. Unfortunately, I guess I tend to feel like this all the time.
We're reeling.
Le mot reeling vient de l'idée de tourner comme quand on perd l'équilibre ou quand on est étourdi. To be reeling from something signifie qu'on est toujours sous le choc.
You're still reeling from losing Chelsea.
Ou bouleversé,
I was reeling from a cancer diagnosis.
souvent après une mauvaise nouvelle ou un événement inattendu.
I'm still reeling from that diaper change.
I like this expression. I feel like it's used just as much in like casual conversation as in more formal things. Like I read it a lot in news articles or in sort of like news presentations or podcasts. Yeah, usually to describe, I suppose, like the aftermath of some kind of traumatic event or just something a little bit crazy. Yeah, to be reeling. All right, next one. To be triggered
I was triggered.
est une expression très courante en anglais.
Triggered as hell, man.
Mais vous savez ce que ça veut dire?
I don't even know what triggered me.
À l'origine, to trigger veut dire déclencher quelque chose.
He triggered massive inflation.
De nos jours, sur Internet, on voit souvent des trigger warnings qui sont des avertissements pour prévenir que du contenu pourrait provoquer une réaction négative chez certaines personnes.
Oh no, you know I find that triggering.
Cependant, dire que quelqu'un est triggered est aussi utilisé de manière un peu méchante quand on pense que quelqu'un est trop sensible. Yeah, I have to say, I feel like, although this expression does have all of the meanings that were discussed, these days it really has, it's that last one that I mentioned that has kind of taken over. Yeah, most people use this to sort of say, oh, you're triggered, right? Or this person reacted that way because they got triggered. It's almost like a way of saying that someone's negative reaction is always an overreaction. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I guess, look, it depends. But it is it's an easy way to upset someone by saying their negative reaction was a result of them being triggered. All right. Next one.
People pigeonhole me.
Mais quel rapport avec les pigeons? A pigeonhole est une ouverture dans un mur où les pigeons nichent. C'est aussi comme ça qu'on appelle des petits compartiments utilisés pour ranger des papiers ou des lettres, souvent à l'école. Le terme a évolué et de nos jours, to be pigeonholed signifie donc être enfermé dans une case spécifique, mais souvent de façon injuste.
It really bothers me when people try to pigeonhole me like that.
Par exemple, un acteur qui ne reçoit que des rôles comiques, même s'il est capable de jouer des rôles sérieux.
Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should be pigeonholed.
Has anyone noticed, perhaps not, but pigeons in France have an accent? They make this noise like woo 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 woo. I could be wrong, but I feel that some pigeons make a woo woo noise and some pigeons make a noise. Interesting. Maybe those pigeons were sick of being pigeonholed, so they started making a different sound. If there are any pigeon experts in the comments watching this video, tell me. Delulu en anglais.
She's Delulu.
Mais ça veut dire quoi En fait, c'est la version courte et humoristique du mot
Delusional. I know.
qui décrit quelqu'un qui se fait des idées ou qui ne voit pas trop la réalité.
Ils sont complètement délulus.
Utilisé à l'origine pour décrire les fans délirants de K-pop, ce mot est maintenant utilisé de manière drôle sur les réseaux.
Top 10 most delulu things.
Pour parler de quelqu'un qui rêve trop ou qui croit à des choses impossibles.
Are you still poisoning yourself with vegetables?
Il y a aussi l'expression Delulu is the solulu. En gros, la seule façon de rester optimiste face à la réalité actuelle, c'est d'être volontairement delulu. I feel that this one is very, very much like internet slang. You can definitely say delulu if you want to, but I feel like you see it much more like written or, used online. Yeah. It sounds nice though, doesn't it? Delulu. Love that. And our last expression for today.
What do you think raw dogging means?
Attention à la manière dont vous utilisez cette expression.
Raw dog. Hell no!
À l'origine, raw dogging est une expression assez vulgaire.
Stop saying raw dog.
Qui signifie avoir un rapport sans protection.
She was totally into my raw dogging.
Mais récemment, elle a pris un sens plus drôle et léger.
Go ahead, raw dog it.
To raw dog something signifie faire quelque chose sans aide ou assistance. Par exemple, raw dog la caféine en ne buvant que du café noir, la course à pied en courant sans musique, et bien sûr le plus connu sur les réseaux est de raw dog les vols long courriers. Pas de film, pas de musique, rien du tout.
You just gonna sit there staring at the back of the seat?
Yeah, so what has happened with this expression? It's a really good example of something that starts out being like so vulgar that when it's kind of morphs into being something less vulgar, it still has this really funny comedic effect because now that it kind of doesn't have this vulgar meaning in certain contexts, it still makes people laugh a lot. And apparently the same thing happened with the use of the word suck. When we say, oh, that sucks, that's not good, you can probably imagine where that came from. It used to have a vulgar meaning, and when it started to be used to just say, oh, that's not very good, that sucks, apparently it also used to have kind of that humorous undertone. It made people laugh. These days, it does not. We just say, oh, that sucks, and we don't even make that connection between apparently the kind of vulgar origin of the term. I wonder if maybe in 20 years' time, maybe people will just be going around saying raw dogging and it won't even be funny. I think that's so interesting. I wonder. So if you download the free PDF from the description, you'll be able to practice all of these expressions in varying contexts and make sure that you really understand how they're used and different ways that they can be added to your English repertoire. And if you are interested in improving your English, you should watch this video next.